Passing is the single most important skill for winning more games. My name is Spruce, and I have a record of 45-1 in my online games, and in this video, I'm breaking down my 7 secrets to master passing that will have you completing way more passes and scoring way more touchdowns in college football 26. So if that sounds good to you, then let's get started. So starting off at number 1, everyone is wrong about pre-snap reads. To be an effective passer, you need to be able to read the defense before the snap. But unfortunately, everyone goes about doing this in the completely wrong way. And so right here, I have a little quiz for you guys. I want you guys to read this defense, tell me what coverage you think it is, and then tell me what kind of route combo you would use to attack that defense. And so what a lot of players will do is they will say, oh, there are 2 high safeties. This must be cover 2 or cover 4. They'll then look at the outside cornerbacks and say, since the outside cornerbacks are only 5 yards off the line of scrimmage, this is most likely a cover 2 shell. And so to attack a cover 2 shell, I'm going to attack along the deep sidelines and attack the deep middle. Very good reasoning. Unfortunately, that would be incorrect because this is cover 3. And this gets to the root of the problem with how most people do pre-snap reads. Most people will guess a specific coverage before the snap and then build their route combo based on that. And that is setting you up for failure. Good players will disguise their coverage before the snap. They're not just going to sit in stock coverages and let you see exactly what they're in. There's 2 different things that they will do to disguise their coverages. First, they might just make individual adjustments. Maybe this linebacker here goes on a hard flat. This one goes in a middle third, and then this safety's in a hook curl. They can do all kinds of things to mess around with their coverage before the snap. But the other thing that they can do, and the thing I did in this little exercise here, is they can use a custom coverage shell. And so if you look below our defensive plays, you can see that if I press up or down the right stick, I can change the coverage shell that my defense is in. And in that particular case, I was in a cover 2 shell, and I called the play cover 3 sky. We can also do the same thing by just flipping it. We could call a cover 3 shell and then call Tampa 2. And out on the field, I'll have a single high safety. And if you're trying to read the safeties and guess a specific coverage before the snap, you would see this and say, oh, cover 3. Let me drop a cover 3 beating route combo. But it turns out it's cover 2. And so we cannot simply guess a specific coverage before the snap if we want to be effective at passing the football. And so with that in mind, you might now be asking, well, if I'm not supposed to guess an exact coverage, how am I supposed to read the defense before the snap? And the answer is that we are going to make an educated guess about whether the defense is in man coverage or zone coverage. That's it. No specific coverages, man coverage or zone coverage. And then we can apply our man beating concepts or our zone beating concepts to get somebody open. And so let's look at right now how we can tell if the defense is in man coverage or zone coverage. And the first thing you need to know is that if your opponent is running man coverage, they will probably not be in a custom coverage shell. If they're in a custom coverage shell, then their man coverage defenders are not in that great of position to play man coverage. And so right here, I have the defense in a custom cover 2 shell. And so we see those 2 high safeties. It looks like cover 2 before the snap. However, if we look at the play art, we can see that some of these man defenders have pretty bad leverage, especially this defender right here has horrible leverage on that receiver. And even this defender right here does not have that great of leverage on that receiver. Any out route, any corner route is getting completely wide open. And people in man coverage, they don't want to play like this. They don't want to just give away free leverage to the receivers. And so when people are in man coverage, they will play in a default coverage shell. They want their man defenders lined up directly across from the receivers. And so what's typically going to happen, let's go back to the play call screen. When you start audibling in practice mode, people can kind of end up out of position. So if we go to default coverage shell, but we call these same exact plays, cover 1 robber and any play in this box halfback strong formation, what you can see now is that those 2 defenders here are lined up perfectly square to the receivers they're guarding. These guys right here, they are lined up directly across from the players they're guarding. Let's go ahead and just, we'll snap the ball and throw it away because I want to show you guys in the replay. It's very important to understand, if there are defenders in man coverage, they'll be lined up directly across. Look at this. You can see that number 15 is lined up straight across from number 1, and then number 7 is lined up directly across from number 86. You can see it is man coverage because of how they are lined up. So when you come out of the huddle, and you see that, when you see those defenders lined up directly across from your players, you can very easily say, oh, that's man coverage. And now let me put man beating routes on the field. Drags, zigs, return routes, corners, posts, crossers, whatever you want. to beat man coverage, it will be a very obvious tell because people who run man coverage are not going to run custom coverage shells. They're just going to run default coverage shells, and they're going to show you it's man coverage. Now, what about if it's zone or match coverage? And this is where people will get into disguising things a little bit more. And this is, like we saw a second ago, why it's so important not to guess a specific coverage shell. So let's say our opponent wants to run a cover 2 shell, but they're actually going to call cover 3 sky. We're going to go the exact same formation. Now, this time, what you can see is that the defenders are no longer lined up directly across from both receivers. You can see that they're kind of in close proximity, but this is very different alignment over here. They are not lined up square with those players anymore. We can go ahead and snap this ball again, and we can look at the replay in the exact same way, but you can see the alignment is different now. And so even if your opponent is trying to disguise their coverage, you won't know what kind of zone coverage they're in. Look at this right here. There's no one across from him. This is not man coverage. And so you don't know if your opponent's in cover 2, cover 3, or cover 4 because they're using a custom coverage shell to disguise it. But that's okay because we can know for a fact this is not man coverage. This is zone coverage. And with that in mind, we can apply our zone beating concepts, our flood concepts, our high lows, whatever zone beating principle you want, you can apply. And so it's crucial that you guys adopt this mindset if you want to be able to pass the ball against skilled players. Stop looking at the defense and trying to be like, oh, I know that's cover 2, I know that's cover 3, I know that's cover 4. You're setting yourself up for failure. But if you can look at the defense and simply say, this is man coverage, let me run man beating concepts, or this is zone coverage, let me run zone beating concepts, then you will instantly take your passing game to the next level. Now, real quick, guys, if you're tired of losing college football games and you want step-by-step instructions about exactly what plays to call and what adjustments to make, then we have you covered at playbookprofessor.gg. Every scheme includes detailed screenshots and video breakdowns so that you're fully prepared for anything that your opponent throws at you. We have over 1,000 active members and 97% of them said they won more games after joining. So if you're ready to take your game to the next level, we'll see you over there at playbookprofessor.gg. Now at number 2, build route combos that beat every coverage. If you have route combos that beat every type of man coverage and every type of zone coverage, then it doesn't even matter if you're not that good at making pre-snap reads because you'll still have someone coming open on every single play. And so right here, I'm in the play motion mesh post in the formation gun trips wide slot weak, and this comes from our Miami offense game plan on playbookprofessor.gg. And I love this play because it beats literally every single coverage without any adjustments. And so let's go through man coverage, all the different types of zone coverage shells, and even match coverage, and you'll see that this setup with 0 adjustments will get someone open every single time. And so to start off, let's run some man coverage. And if you're ever struggling against man coverage, the easiest way to attack it is with double drags. If you run double drags against man coverage, there is an almost 100% certainty that at least one of your receivers is going to come open. And if you have a good step or two on the defender, then there's going to be a lot of room for you to run after the catch. Now, the double drags are great, but we also have this really nice shallow post from our outside receiver as well. And so if we go ahead and put the defense into man coverage once again, you can see that now the shallow post, I will say, doesn't always beat man, but it has a pretty good chance of beating man. And even with a good pass lead, even if he doesn't get a ton of separation, you can usually catch that ball inside the man coverage. And that is very repeatable. We can throw that over and over and over again. And so if by some chance the drags are covered, I usually throw to that shallow post on the outside. So we have man coverage completely taken care of. I'm not worried about man coverage. Let's talk about zone coverage. And so if the defense here is in cover 3, then after the snap, we want to be looking at whether those flat defenders are playing the hard flat or if they're playing back. Because if they're not guarding the hard flat, we can get super easy yards with this running back flat route every single time. And all you have to do is pass lead that ball up, and that is a super quick, super easy 6 or 7 yard gain. And I think everyone needs to know this. On these flat routes, if you pass lead these straight up, you are stealing a lot of yards on the outside. And the moment you do that, your opponent now has to shade their coverage down. They have to guard those flats because it's just, it's too many yards. We just got like 12 yards on that last play. And so when they start shading their coverage down, if they're in cover 3, now you've essentially built a high-low over the middle of the field. You're putting these linebackers in conflict, especially this guy right here, because he either has to stay low to guard the drags, or stay high to guard the shallow post. Because those deep blues, those middle and outside thirds, they are not going to play the shallow post. It's just too shallow underneath them. And so this linebacker is the one that has to guard either the drag or the post, and he can't guard both. And so if your opponent is shading down, usually they will have the drags taken away. And in that case, you can just go over the top, nice little pass lead down over the middle, and you have an easy completion to the shallow post. Now, let's say your opponent gets out of cover 3. Let's say they want to run cover 2. The exact same principle applies. Are they shading down? Because if they're not shading down, we have free yards to the running back in the flat. Passing that ball up, and we easily steal, what's that, 6-7 yards right there? And so your opponent's like, all right, well, I want to run cover 2. I have to shade down. So now we're playing shaded down. We have hard flats on the outside. Well, guess what? We have this tight end wheel route. This is a cover 2 destroyer. We just pass that ball down, and that is easy yards down the sideline. Now your opponent's like, all right, well, I can't run man coverage. I can't run cover 3. I can't run cover 2. I might as well run cover 4. But I mean, you guys can probably tell already that, cover 4 shaded down. So a cover 4 drop. This isn't going to work because we have 2 drags crossing over the middle of the field. And so one of these drags has to come open. I'll just go ahead and throw to, I probably chose the wrong one there, but in a game, of course, the user will be in the middle. You'll just choose whichever one the user doesn't guard. You have 2 drags crossing short over the middle, and there's only one user to guard them. And so, of course, make a better read than me. This is, of course, the guy who's wide open. And even you can throw the shallow post too if you really want to. But you can see that no one in their right mind should be running cover 4 drop against the setup because you'll have guys open everywhere. And so shaded up cover 4 quarters is really cover 4 drop. And it's going to be the exact same thing. We're going to throw to the running back on the flat route. And with a pass lead up, once again, we'll have an easy, 7-yard gain on the outside. And then your opponent would have to shade down. And of course, then we already saw how shaded down cover 4 drop is wide open. And the final thing left is going to be cover 4 quarters. This is match coverage. But even though it's match coverage, you still have that same issue over the middle where that linebacker cannot guard both of the drags. And so he's going to have to guard one or the other. We just throw to whichever one is open, and we have a ton of yards over the middle. And so now we've ran man coverage, we've run all the zone coverages, we've ran match coverage, and there's always somebody open. And so this is an example of a great route combo that beats every coverage. And there are tons of others like it. And so if you can incorporate these great route combos into your scheme, then you will have way more success passing the ball because you will always have somebody open. Now at number 3, always have a read progression on every pass play. This is maybe the single most important passing tip I'll ever talk about, but if you guys implement read progressions into your passing game, it will immediately take you from an average passer to a good or even great passer. And so to start off, let's talk about what is a read progression. And a read progression is simply the order in which you look at your routes on a passing play. Now on all of the route combos we build in our game plans at playbookprofessor.gg, we label the read progressions for you guys. So they're labeled number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. And so the idea is after the snap, you look at the first read first. If he's open, you throw to him. If he's not open, you go to the second read. If the second read is open, you throw to him. If he's not open, you go to the third read, and so on. And implementing this into your passing game will make you a way better passer. And so right here, let's go through a little exercise in read progressions with a simple flood concept and a backside dig. And so I'm in the formation gun trips X nasty, and we're just gonna build a little flood concept right here. And our read progression on this play is going to be the first read as the speed out from our inside trips receiver. The second read will be the corner route from our middle trips receiver. And the third read will be the backside dig route from our solo receiver. And this is something real quick that people will argue with me about sometimes. They will say, oh, you're reading low to high. You should be reading high to low. They'd say that in this case, you should read the corner route first and then check down to the speed out if the corner route's not open. And I'm here to tell you that if you actually play College Football 26, then you are aware of how little time you have in the pocket. And so if you want to make your first read a deep, long developing corner route, then be my guest. But if you do that, you're going to take a lot of sacks and lose a lot of yards in situations where you almost definitely had someone open in the flat or on a check down. And so in College Football 26, you should be looking at your underneath routes first and throwing to them if they are open. And so let's talk about this read progression. So we, of course, don't know what the defense is going to be in pre-snap. And so we won't even look at it. We're just going to go through our read progression. So the first read, like I said, is the speed out. So when we snap this ball, if the speed out is open, we throw to it and we take our easy yards on the outside. That's a nice 10-yard gain. So far, so good. Let's build the route combo. Once again, block the running back. And again, I'm not going to tell you guys what the coverage is because we are simply focusing on the read progression. So once we snap this ball, we're looking at the speed out first. And if he's open, we'll throw to him. If he's not open, we're going to go to the second read, which is the corner route. So we go ahead and snap this ball. This time that speed out is covered, but the corner route is open and we have an easy completion on the outside. So are you guys starting to kind of understand the idea of the read progression? The order is the same every single time. We're reading this guy first. If he's open, we throw to him, but guess what? Oh, he's not open. He's guarded. Okay, well, now we go to the second read in the progression. This guy right here, this guy is open. We throw to him and we have a nice completion along the sidelines. And so those were our first two reads, but there's still a third read on this play. So let's go ahead and build this route combo one more time. And once again, I'm not going to show you guys the coverage because we have to just go through the read progression. And so once again, first read, speed out. Second read, corner route. If those are both guarded, we'll go to our third read, which is the in route. So we're going to snap this ball. In route is guarded. Corner route is guarded. In route is open. And that is how a read progression works. And of course, I was manipulating the defense so that we would get good reps each time, of course. So I wanted to show you guys the principle of the read progression. So I had this linebacker manned up on the corner route that time. But one more time, go through the read progression. First read, speed out, guarded by the hard flat, okay? Go to the second read. Second read, corner route, guarded by the linebacker, now manned up on the corner route. He's covered as well. Third read, our backside dig coming open into the space vacated by the linebacker who ended up guarding the corner route. Now he's wide open and we have an easy completion over the middle. If you guys can get in the habit of combining building great route combos with read progressions where you're always reading low to high and throwing to your underneath routes first if they are open, you will be unstoppable in the passing game. Now at number 4, this is how to pick up 99% of blitzes in college football 26. We have 3 different options for picking up blitzes, and you need to know about all of them so that you can apply them at the appropriate times. But to start off, let's use an example of dealing with an opponent who's running an extremely glitchy loop blitz, where when we snap the ball, that linebacker is just screaming through this gap. There's a ton of space for him to come in through, and we're just like, how the heck do we deal with that? Well, the first way you can deal with picking up blitzes is to simply block your running back. And this is always going to be the safest and most reliable way. When you block your running back, it'll pick up loop blitzes, it'll pick up overload blitzes, it'll pick up edge blitzes, it'll pick up any blitz in the game. And so when we snap the ball, this time you can see that it does not come in. It doesn't even matter if the running back is the one that picks him up. Simply having the running back blocked is going to change the blocking assignments of your O-line. And then what worked before is no longer going to work. Now, of course, in this case, it's Oregon State versus Oregon, so they're still shedding us like crazy. But as you can see, the actual blitz that we were worried about, this linebacker looping in, he's now getting picked up by the guard, no problem. And so method number 1 is, of course, to simply block your running back. But let's say you don't want to have to block your running back. You still want to be able to send 5 people out. The second method is to ID the mic on the blitzer coming in free. And so the mic is going to be signified by the M icon over a player. And it can be a little confusing because right now that looping linebacker is already identified as the mic. So you may be saying, oh, he should automatically get picked up. But you have to re-identify him as the mic in this case. And so to do that, we're going to hold down LB or L1. We're going to press A on Xbox or X on PlayStation for ID the mic. And that will allow us to move this triangle around to wherever we want. And now if we select him, I know it's a little bit silly because he was already selected, but this time with him selected as the mic, when we snap this ball, that blitz is going to get picked up super easily and we have a clean pocket to throw from. So that is our second method, is to ID the looper. Now, the third method for picking up these blitzes and almost any blitz is to simply half slide in the direction that the blitz is coming in from. And it's important that we half slide and not full slide. And so because this loop blitz is coming in from the right side, we are going to half slide our O-line. And they made it really easy to half slide this year. All we're going to do is we're going to flick our right stick to the right. And what you can see now when we look at the play art is you can see those blue lines underneath our center, our right guard, and our right tackle. And they are now half sliding to the right. when you half slide towards the side of the blitz, it is going to pick up the blitz almost every time. And you can see that right there. Even though it looked like he was initially coming in free, because of the half slide, it did get picked up. Now, again, I know we got shed. We're still Oregon State. We're going to get shed pretty quick. But you can see that because of the half slide, our guard was able to recover. And that's what we want right there. We don't want the linebacker just coming in through the gap completely untouched. We want our guys to actually pick him up. And so half sliding is extremely powerful. Now, don't full slide. If you full slide, that is a recipe for disaster. And to full slide, you're going to, it's a little tougher to accidentally full slide, but you would be holding down LB or L1 and right on the left stick, and that's going to full slide. And when you full slide, you run the risk of leaving an edge rusher completely free to come in unblocked. You don't want to do that. And so we would rather half slide. And of course, I know that before we slid without pulling up the pass protection menu, you can of course do your half slides and full slides from the pass protection menu as well by holding down LB or L1. And so we can half slide to the right, half slide to the left. We can full slide right, full slide left, wherever we want. And so once again, this is a half slide to the right, but in my opinion, it's just easier to do the trick where you half slide by flicking your right stick to the right. And that way you don't have to deal with the whole pass protection menu. It's just a quick flick of the right stick to the right, and then you are going to very easily be picking that blitz up. And again, sometimes they'll get picked up late, and so maybe move around in the pocket a little bit just to help your O-line out, but it's going to make a world of difference. Because remember, as we saw at the beginning, if you don't do any sliding or any IDing or any blocking the running back, this is how the blitz comes in, and you're going to get absolutely rocked. And so if you want to pick up blitzes, those are your three best options. You have blocking your running back, IDing the free blitzer as the mic, and half sliding your O-line in the direction of the blitz. And if you can do those three things, then you will be able to pick up 99% of blitzes in college football 26. Now at number 5, pass leads are the difference between interceptions and touchdowns. You should be pass leading on every throw you ever make. And if you're not currently pass leading, you're going to see right now just how powerful pass leads are and why you immediately need to start using them in your passing game. But to start, let's talk about what a pass lead actually is. A pass lead is simply pointing and holding your left stick in the direction that you want to lead the ball while your quarterback is going through his throwing motion. And to be clear, we are not talking about freeform passing. We are not pressing any special buttons. We are simply pointing and holding the left stick while we press the icon of our receiver. You can think of pass leads as essentially fine-tuning exactly where you want to place the ball around your receiver. And so to demonstrate the importance of pass leads, let's look at what happens if we don't pass lead. And so I'm going to put the defense here in a shaded down cover for a drop. And on offense, we have a very simple flood concept, and we are going to throw to our middle trips receiver on the corner route. I'm not going to pass lead this throw. So when we snap the ball and we throw to the receiver without any special pass leads, what you can see is that the outside cornerback is able to come back down and make a play on the corner route, even though he was supposed to be pulled deep by the streak. The whole point of a flood concept is that the streak will push back outside thirds and outside quarters and get your corner route open. But because we didn't pass lead, look at this outside cornerback able to come back and very late hit us in the air, force the incompletion, and now instead of having a touchdown, we just have an incompletion. And sometimes if you really screw up the pass lead or don't pass lead, that will actually even be an interception. But now let's do the exact same thing, except this time we are going to add in a good pass lead. And so the defense is in cover 4 drop once again. We have the exact same route combo, but this time I'm going to pass lead the ball down and outside, which means I'm going to point and hold my left stick down and to the left. So if we go ahead and snap this ball, this time I pass lead the ball down and outside. I'm going to possession catch it along the sidelines, and we are either in there for a touchdown or we're on like the 1-inch line. But look at the difference in where that ball ended up. When I didn't pass lead the ball, it essentially led the receiver on the exact path that he was running. And so as a result, if you remember, he kind of ended up way out here, maybe like halfway into the end zone, and it made it very easy for the outside cornerback to come back and hit him as the ball came in. But instead, when we pass lead, we're taking advantage of all this open space down here. Instead of the receiver catching it up here 5 yards into the end zone, he's going to catch it down here much closer to the pylon. And so you can see we are creating like 5 to 7 yards of extra space for our receiver when that ball comes in. I'll let you guys decide whether that's a touchdown or not. Looks like it's probably just barely out, but we'll still take it on the 1-inch line. And so you can see just how important it is to get comfortable with pass leads, because when you understand the concept of pass leads and leading the ball away from defenders and leading your receivers into open space, then it opens up so many more possibilities in your passing game. Now at number 6, you should be using bullet passes on almost every throw. This is one that people love to argue with me about, but I promise you it's true. Bullet passes are the most effective way to get the ball from your quarterback's hands into your receiver's hands. And there is one exception to that, and we'll go over what that exception is in just a minute, but on 95% of my throws, I am using a bullet pass. And so first, let's talk about the different types of passes. We have bullet passes, touch passes, and lob passes. A bullet pass is going to be the fastest type of pass. It's going to have the fastest velocity, the lowest trajectory, and it's going to be done by simply pressing and holding the button of your receiver all the way down. That right there is a textbook bullet pass. I just press and hold the button all the way down. I had a nice pass lead to the outside, and you saw we had a really nice velocity and trajectory on that throw. Now the next type of pass is kind of the toughest type of pass and probably the rarest type of pass. It's going to be the touch pass. There's a very, very small window between lob pass and touch pass in terms of how much you hold the button down. And so you have to like just press and hold the button very briefly, if that makes any sense at all. It's like you press it longer than for a lob pass, which is just a light tap, but you definitely don't hold it down for more than a half second, because then you're just doing a bullet pass. And so a touch pass, like I said, is kind of halfway between the two. But if you can successfully touch pass, then it'll probably look something kind of like that. It'll be kind of looping through the air, and that's a touch pass. And there's really not a whole lot of use for them, but that is what a touch pass looks like. The final type of pass is going to be a lob pass. And this is where the ball is going to go really high into the air. You are just going to barely touch that ball, and that's what a lob pass looks like. And you guys may be saying, oh, you just completed all 3 of those passes, and therefore all 3 of those passes are valid. But as you probably saw, the bullet pass, we had a lot more space around our receiver compared to the touch pass and the lob pass. And so the reason that you want to use a bullet pass, guys, is that the defenders are going to react to the ball the moment it's in the air. And so in order to minimize the amount of ground that the defenders can cover while the ball's in the air, we need the ball to be in the air for as little time as possible. And a bullet pass is what accomplishes that. And so once again, if we just throw a bullet pass right here, once our guy gets open, look at how much space we have. And you may be saying, oh, well, you had to wait longer for him to get open. And that is true. You had to wait a tad longer for him to get open. But the alternative of throwing a touch pass or a lob pass, and let me go ahead and run that again because I actually didn't have him on the deep crosser, so that was my bad. But the alternative of throwing a lob pass or touch pass basically means that the defense can run under the ball, they can react to the throw being in the air, and if you don't place it perfectly, which is really tough to do when you're lobbing the ball that high into the air, the defense can react so much faster. And I thought about going through a bunch of different examples, but the reality, guys, is it really just does come down to you want to minimize the amount of time that the ball is in the air. Bullet passes are what allows you to do that. And so please use bullet passes in your games. They're by far the best way to throw the ball. And like I said, it minimizes the time in the air, and it minimizes the amount of time between the quarterback's hands and the receiver's hands. Now, there is one exception. If your opponent is pressing up, like if they're playing press man coverage, which is obviously pretty risky, you have a very good chance of your streaks winning over the top, of getting a super win animation, and then they get a yard or 2 of separation. When that happens, you can lob your passes with a pass lead up, and it is the best way to guarantee that your receiver catches the ball in front of the defender. And so if we go ahead and run this right here, we can see that our defender on the outside got some separation. I hit a pass lead up, and with a lob pass, I should say, and we catch it in the back of the end zone. I did a lob pass there. So all I did was just tap the button, just a light tap of the button, and then it gives that ball that nice tall arc, and you can put it over the top for the touchdown. We'll do it one more time right here. Once again, just a lob pass with a pass lead up, and we are catching that ball in the end zone. And so those are the only times I will use a lob pass, is if my opponent is pressing up and I have a streak that is beating the defender over the top. Any other time, I am using a bullet pass, and I highly recommend that you guys use bullet passes as well. And finally, at number 7, freeform passing is overpowered when used correctly. Freeform passing is a tool that when used incorrectly will result in incompletions and overthrows, but when used correctly, it can throw your receiver open and turn plays that are otherwise completely bagged into wide open touchdowns. And so let's talk about freeform passing. And the first thing we have to talk about is the passing type that we need to be on, because you can't just be on any passing type. You have to be on either placement or placement and accuracy. If you're on classic, you can't freeform. If you're on revamped, you can't freeform. You have to be on placement or placement and accuracy. Now, the next thing is our pass lead increase needs to be set to small. And we'll talk about exactly what this means in just a second, but just know that you have to be on small. And finally, for the reticle speed, you can be on whatever you want, but I just leave it on the default, which is 7, and this is perfectly fine. And so let's go back out to the field and talk about what freeform passing actually is. Freeform passing is essentially a super pass lead for your throws. It allows you to pass lead beyond the standard region. And so if we go ahead and run a play real quick, you'll be able to see exactly how this works. And so right here, we freeformed our pass to the outside and we threw our receiver open. Now, I want you guys to listen to this description I'm about to say and then go back and watch that rep again. When you pass lead a ball without freeforming, your pass lead can only go within the shaded ellipse. There's a shaded ellipse, a shaded circle around your receiver. And if you're not freeforming, your passing reticle will be bound. It'll be limited by that shaded ellipse. However, when you freeform pass, it allows your reticle to go beyond the shaded ellipse. You can go outside that shaded ellipse. Now, that pass lead increase setting that we changed to small, that determines how far outside the shaded ellipse we can freeform. And we want it on small because we only want to allow ourselves to go a little bit outside the shaded ellipse. Like if you have it any bigger than that, then pretty much everything will be an overthrow and it's completely pointless. But by having it on small, it is in the sweet spot where we can get the super pass leads on our receivers without completely overthrowing them. Now, it's important to understand that you should only ever use freeform passes on deep balls. You do not want to freeform short or medium routes because they will be overthrown. That's just the way it works. The normal pass leads are perfectly fine for your normal short and medium routes. It's only on these deep routes, and especially in situations where, like this case is kind of simulating like you thought maybe it would be zone coverage, it ended up being man coverage, and you need to throw your receiver open. These are the situations where we use freeform passing. And to be honest with you guys, it's not going to be 100% accurate every single time. These throws will miss. And so we can go ahead and run it again, and we might hit it, we might miss. And in this case, we hit it again, but we didn't get the best animation. I guess it was still a completion. We'll go through and run a few more reps. And at some point, well, I guess it's working pretty well. But at some point, there will be like an incompletion because of an overthrow. The quarterbacks do have a little bit less accuracy on these freeforms than normal. And so just keep that in mind that they won't be 100%. They will be overthrown sometimes, and that's okay. That's just part of the risk we take for having this super awesome ability to get these huge pass leads that are much bigger than the normal pass leads. Now, some of you may be saying, oh, I can just do that on revamped. And the answer is, no, you can't. You just simply cannot do what we're doing right here with revamped passing. And so let's go to revamped real quick. We'll respot the ball so that we're on revamped. And we're gonna run the exact same thing, and we're gonna try and make these throws with revamped. And we'll do it with bullet passes, we'll do it with lob passes. Doesn't matter what kind of pass, you simply cannot get the pass to get nearly as far outside with revamped as you can with freeform. And you know, maybe someone in the comments will be like, oh, you're just doing revamped wrong. Well, I mean, that was a basically full meter right there. And you saw the first one was not a very full meter. And so you guys tell me, should it be full meter? Should it be not full meter? And I mean, I guess that was a completion, but you saw that that's just not clean. Like you do not want to make that throw. And we can even do it with just a lob with the revamped. And once again, the defender's just running under it. It should be intercepted. And so don't try to do this with revamped. You're just setting yourself up for failure if you try to do it with revamped. What we're doing is unique to freeform passing. And so if you want to take your passing game to the next level, if you want to be able to find yourself in those situations where your receiver is guarded, but then have the ability to throw him open because you have access to these super pass leads, you need to be using the passing type placement or placement and accuracy, and you need to be using freeform passing. And when you do that, it unlocks a whole new dimension of your passing game. So those are the 7 secrets to master passing in College Football 26. And if you guys have other passing secrets that I didn't cover, then definitely share them in the comments below. If you learned something new, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel so that we know you want to see more videos just like this one. But thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll catch you in the next video.